We're going to cover the aspects of charge taking to help increase your confidence in taking charges and to increase your overall effectiveness. I found most players don't take charges either because they don't know how to properly or because they're just not sure if they're going to be able to get the call. So what we're going to cover today is how to take the charge effectively and significantly increase your likelihood of getting the call. So we're going to cover some of the basic principles of what we call the 4-inch fall. And most players have a habit of taking a 4-foot fall. And when you're taking a 4-foot fall and you're straight up when the offensive player hits you, well, number one, that can hurt. Number two, your likelihood of being able to take the charge is significantly reduced because a good offensive player, a good attacker, is going to make some type of direction change and get around you, and you're going to have an increased chance of getting called for a block. So we call it the 4-inch fall because of this one principle. The closer the offensive player, the closer the penetrator gets to you, the lower you're going to get. So let me say that again. The closer the penetrator gets to you, the lower you're going to get. So by the time you actually absorb the contact taking the charge, it's not a 4-foot charge. You're not in a statue position, but you're low and you're in an athletic stance. So that when you actually hit the ground, it's only 4 inches for your butt to make contact with the floor, as opposed to 4 feet for your back to hit the floor. So the first principle that you need to know is the closer the penetrator, the lower you get. That's principle number one. I've got Safu here with me, and Safu's going to talk about a key principle that'll help you as you absorb that contact.
So point 2, and this is one of those crucial things. It's one of those little things that makes a big difference. Mono talked about the closer, the lower, principle 1. The second thing is, and one of the reasons why players don't take charges or are afraid to take charges, because they just flat out hurt. Most players come in and there's a player barreling down and they take the contact with their body. We've all been there. And the after effect is one where you get up, you're shaking, you're bruised, and sometimes you've lost your wind. Well, this is where principle 2 comes in. You want to utilize your friendly forearm. There's nothing in the rules that say that once you can't declare your property and own that property. So instead of taking the contact with your body, we're going to encourage you to take the contact with your forearm. So I'll just use Mono as my demonstrator to start out. So your friendly forearm, you want to keep it parallel to your torso, parallel to your chest, and it's going to be a firm forearm. You're not going to extend it because that looks like a foul. And one of our core PGC principles are that you don't want to do things that look like a foul. So now we keep it close to the body and parallel to the body, but firm. In effect, I'll come around this side. What takes place is when you've got a firm forearm, so it's not going to be soft like a jellyfish, because then you end up hitting yourself. It negates the benefit of having that firm forearm. But with a firm forearm, so Mono will keep it firm, what happens is he takes the hit with the forearm, but you don't have to oversell it, Mono. But what happens is when you get hit with a firm forearm, look what happens to his upper body. So this is all part of the salesmanship that all intelligent players have, is they sell the call. So we're not taking it with the body, but with a firm forearm, firmer, the upper body naturally starts to go back. So it looks to an official like you took contact and you got jostled back. So that's part of selling the charge taking, is having a firm forearm. And we'll work on that in a moment.
So your next principle is to fall on both cheeks. To fall on both cheeks. A lot of players have a habit, especially if they take that 4-foot fall, they're not quite there, and they get hit on one side and then they crumble. And if you crumble, that's an obvious sign to a referee that you weren't there in time. Now, a lot of referees don't articulate this, and they'll say, well, you were moving your feet. And so a player crumbles to the side, they say, moving your feet, block call. Well, if you can make a habit, first of all, on nearly any charge you take, you're going to need to be moving your feet. The players are moving quickly. You're going to need to be sliding. Now, at the moment you absorb the contact, you're going to need to beat them to that position. But even if you don't beat them to that position, if you can implement the next 2 principles, you'll increase your likelihood of getting the call dramatically. So the first is Our third principle is fall on both cheeks. Don't crumble to one side. Even if Sefu hits me as he's attacking and he hits my hip and I'm not quite there, if I can land on both cheeks, that'll increase the likelihood that the referee thinks that I'm in the correct place to take the charge. So you don't have to actually line up every attacker so that they hit your chest. But you do need to ensure that you land on both cheeks. And then the fourth principle is you need to fall in the direction of the penetration. So if Sefu is attacking against me, and he attacks, and I take a charge, and I fall this direction while he's attacking that direction, that'll be an obvious block to a referee. Now they may use the phraseology, you were moving your feet, but what they actually meant was you didn't fall in the direction of the penetration. So how do you know if you fell in the direction of the penetration? Usually it's because the offensive player lands on you. So if Sefu is attacking the lane and I slide over and now I fall in the direction of the penetration so that he is going to land on me, I've got a much greater likelihood of getting the call. And that takes us right into our fifth principle. As I'm falling, it's important that I don't just crumble and fall flat. Because as Sefu said, if you've got a fear that you might get hurt when you take a charge, well, you're not going to be really interested in taking many charges, especially at key times in big games. But if you have a tool or a technique in place that can protect you, that'll increase your confidence of taking the charge. So our fifth principle is you've got to roll and get your feet high. So let's take a look at what this looks like. So Sefu attacks the lane. I know the principle number one, the closer he gets to me, the lower I go, so that when the contact takes place, it's not going to be a 4-foot charge. And if a good attacker has good lateral movement and direction changes, well, they're going to jump around you and leave you looking like a pylon. So if you attempt to stand and take a 4-foot charge, you might not even make any contact. So you're going to be low and wide, and if you're moving, that's okay. If you're sliding, that's okay. The most important thing is you get lower as the attacker gets closer to you. You get your friendly but firm forearm out, not up at 90 degrees, but probably at best at 45. And then as the contact takes place, I get both cheeks down, I fall in the direction of the penetration, and I get my feet up. Get my feet up. That way, if he's going to come down, he's going to come down on top of me, but I'm protected. You don't want to fall and be completely exposed. You don't want to take a charge and put your hands behind you so that somebody puts their knee right in your chest. So you protect your main frame, your engine, and then when you fall, you're protected on the fall as well. Seth, can you talk about the hands when a defender is taking that charge?
Yeah, the last thing I'll add to it as a point of precision. Old school basketball principles used to teach us to put our hands back on the charge. Let's throw that out the window. I'm sure most of you have seen, and I know in my coaching career, I've seen a lot of athletes who've lost weeks, months, and potentially their whole season from throwing their hand back on the charge, leading to a broken wrist, a broken hand. So this is the advantage of the 4-inch fall. You're not falling as far. So one arm goes up, this is your friendly but firm forearm, and instead of putting the other hand back to brace your fall, you now know, and you have confidence in knowing you're not falling a far distance. So the other hand needs to come up to protect your body. And so that's a crucial point of precision. The closer the lower, friendly but firm forearm, fall with both butt cheeks in the direction of the contact, get the other hand up to protect yourself and your feet up as well. All right. Thank you.
Now, an additional point of precision that you can implement is to exhale when you're taking the charge. There's two benefits. Just like martial arts, if you're absorbing contact, you exhale. If you're inflicting the contact, you exhale, and you add that sound. Right? You're going to elicit force by taking that breath when or giving out that breath when you exhale. There's two benefits. One is it helps with the contact. But the second is it helps to notify the referee. It's part of that salesmanship that Sefu talked about. It helps to notify the referee and everyone in the gym that you've just taken a charge. So you want to add sound to it. So if Sefu's coming at me, it's going to have two benefits. One, in exhaling, it's going to help you let yourself go. and it's going to notify the referees and everybody in the gym that you've just taken that charge. So the closer the attacker, the lower I'm going to get. As I take that contact, I'm going to exhale and add the sound. And that's part of that salesmanship that Sefu talked about earlier. So that's an extra point of precision. Add sound, exhale when you're taking that charge. All right, let's take a look at this with two players. So give me one offensive player, one defensive player, one at the foul line, one at the three-point line. We're going to take a look at this first out of stopping your man. So guarding the ball and being able to take a charge. So this is our level 1 defense, being able to keep your offensive player out of the paint. Now, if you're in a defensive position and your player begins to attack, well, remember, you don't have to necessarily get your chest in front of his chest to be able to take the charge, but you do have to be in a position where you can absorb contact, fall with both cheeks, and fall in the direction of the penetration. So before we even add the penetration and add the dribble, we're going to work on what we call technique training. So you're going to have the chance to do this with an offensive player just walking into you and just giving you light contact while you practice those different principles. So let's go ahead, let's have you take 2 steps back, and the closer he gets to you, the lower you're going to get. You're going to get that firm, friendly forearm, and you can take that charge when you're guarding when you're guarding the ball. When you're a help side defender in level 2 defense, well, that's a different story. You'll be able to slide over and meet the penetration head on. When you're guarding the ball, a lot of times you're going to be in defensive stance sliding. So you may actually have one leg forward when you take this charge. So we'll cover this one first. Same principles apply. I just have one leg forward, so I'll step in and take your place. And as the offensive player attacks, I end up taking the charge, and the only difference is as I take the charge, I'm not going to get both cheeks down. All the other principles are the same, but I'm going to land more on one cheek than the other. So the player hits me, and I land, both feet come up, and I roll back. So that's a level 1 taking a charge against the penetrator. Now I can meet him head on and fall both cheeks if he changes direction. So the most obvious time to do that is if a ball handler uses a spin dribble. That's a defensive attacking move. So if he attacks, you can come at me, and he spins, and I can meet him where he's turning into and get in front of his direction of penetration. Then I can be in a position to then fall with both cheeks, and I can fall in that direction of penetration. But for right now, we're going to start with level 1. He's going to penetrate, you're going to slide over, you're going to get that forearm out, and you're going to get back on that right cheek. So you don't even need to take a dribble, you're just going to walk slowly, and the closer you get, the lower you're going to get until it's a 4-inch fall. Here we go. Walking, walking, walking. Drop down, and then bounce back up again. You can just pull them back up again each time. So let's take that again, and you were able to turn that 4-foot fall into probably a 2-foot fall. So see if you can drop your butt even further, so when you get that contact, it's just a 4-inch fall, and then you're rolling. So you're not falling, you're rolling. So like Dennis Rodman, one of the best charge takers of all time, often he rolled and went all the way back. It was a full somersault, and he was back in the standing position because he rolled so well. So see if you can change that fall into a roll. Here we go. Let's take that a little slower as you walk in. So he gets lower, lower, lower. Keep that firm, friendly forearm. Roll back and help him back up again. And just make sure, as Sefu mentioned earlier, keep that firm forearm. That time it was a little jellyfish-like. You want to keep it more like a brick wall. Let's take that a third time. Here it comes, lower, 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 and back up again. So that's our level 1 charge on a penetration. Now let's take a look at it, and this is going to require a big direction change on your part as you're sliding with the offensive player, but let's take a look at it if you force him into a spin dribble. So you cut off his attack. As a good defender, you always want to chest the ball when they attempt to penetrate. So you get your chest in front of the ball, or it looks like you have your chest in front of the ball. He direction changes, and you take a big slide step into the direction of his penetration, and you're going to meet him there and actually beat him to that spot. Now, this doesn't require quickness as much as it requires anticipation. So you don't have to be lightning fast to take a charge, but it does require anticipation. So we'll do it again with no dribble, just having you walking in, and then you're going to slide, cut off that lane, cut off that drive line, and then slide all the way back. So here we go. Just take it really slowly, cuts it off, and now slide all the way back at the forearm out, 4-inch fall. There you go. So we'll take it again. He was still 2 or 3 feet high. So take that 4-foot fall and drop it down to the 4-inch fall. Here we go. Chest the ball, slide back, and there it is. And what's one principle he can remember? Get those feet all the way up so you're rolling. Want to get those feet all the way up each and every time. So that's your level 1 charge, taking a charge on penetration. Let's take a look at it, Sefu, with taking a charge as a help side defender. So your level 2 defense. Here we go.